Welcome to Talking Mopars, episode number 142. This is a replay of the live-streamed podcast that I recorded Friday night with one of the most popular guests of the show, my friend Michaela Brass, better known as Miss Mopar. She returned to talk about her experience organizing car shows, her history at Chrysler's at Carlisle, including Chrysler's at Carlisle 2022, her experience in the automotive business, and more. So without further ado, if you are a Mopar enthusiast, then you are in the right place. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into the best Mopar enthusiast-driven podcast on planet Earth. And I'm your host, Chris Albrecht, better known as the Mopar Hunter, and this is Talking Mopars.
You're listening to Talking Mopars with the Mopar Hunter, your direct connection to all things Mopar.
Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I have to ask you guys a question. Is your Mopar protected? Whether it's sitting outside in the elements or inside the safe confines of your man cave, it's important to keep your Mopar protected. That's why I'm excited to announce that I'm now affiliated with a company offering an amazing solution for vehicle protection. They have everything from basic indoor shields all the way up to the top-of-the-line platinum shields, offering the very best protection to keep your Mopar safe, both indoors and outdoors, from elements like dust, water, snow, and yes, even UV rays. Their products are guaranteed to fit and are backed by a great warranty. To find out more about my new affiliate, please visit TalkingMopars.com, click on the Affiliates tab, and follow the link to their website. If you need protection for your Mopar, don't worry, we got you covered. What's happening, guys? We are live for Talking Mopars Friday Night Live with the return of Miss Mopar. Welcome back, Michaela. It's good to see you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you know, the last few appearances that you've been on the show, the numbers have been pretty crazy. I've been pretty impressed. Now, I can't quote them for you right now, but I can tell you that people are like, hey, when's Miss Mopar? I was like, she was just on. So you're very popular.
Well, here, I had a lot of people mentioning that they enjoyed the show, so I'm happy to be part of it.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I got to talk to you about Carlisle because it's one show that has been on my bucket list forever, and I've never been able to make it. And everybody that I know in Mopar, except for the few outliers, but everybody's like, oh, you got to go to Carlisle at least once just to see it and how crazy it is. Because it's just like the giant collection of Chryslers, all makes, models. I guess it's just crazy. And from the pictures I see, it's like, wow, there's a little something for everybody, it seems.
It's a Mopar lover's heaven on earth. And like you see things that span the decades of this hobby that we love. And, you know, some of them are perfectly restored and some are in progress and some are patinaed and some are, and it just sort of, you know, like you said, there's something for everybody. And it's such a great opportunity to shop because not only do you have the swap meet right there, it's massive. But if you are unsure, you have a whole show field of vehicles to reference. Yeah. Which is nice. Like when I was getting stuff for my 72 a decade ago, if you're not sure about something or you need a little bit of inspo, like there's a line of 72 Chargers just steps away. So it's kind of like the whole experience. And you know, it's just such a fun weekend.
Yeah. It's a good show when you see like a 1987 Chrysler LeBaron convertible and you're like, okay, they got everything.
Yeah, they did. And everything at Carlisle has a cult like following. You know what I mean? Like there's the Prowler guys and the Crossfire guys. And you don't necessarily see a lot of Prowlers on the road. Yeah. You don't necessarily see a lot of like late 80s Daytonas on the roads, but they're there. And it's just really cool to see everybody come out like in, you know, just different generations of the hobby as far as they're interested in. You know, there's forward look cars and then there's Hellcats and everything you can think of in the middle.
That's awesome. I do want to rewind because you had your show that you throw every year. How did that go? Tell me a little bit about that.
Amazing. I can't speak enough to just the quality of cars that we had there. We had just over 250 cars there, and every one of them was just breathtaking. We had a large handful of AAR Cudas, 2 wing cars. One came all the way from North Carolina.
Wow.
A handful of Prowlers. Like, to see 3 Prowlers in one place that's not Carlisle, I feel like is, not ultra common. And our best of show was a 67 Charger with a 6.4 Hemi swap. Like, it was just a really wide variety of very quality cars. And I couldn't have been happier with the turnout if I handpicked them myself. And it was like every time I turned around, there was something else that was just spectacular driving up the driveway. And we purchased 400 new coats for the local kids. So it was a good day.
That's awesome. And how many years have you been running that show?
So that was the 7th annual, less the disaster that we call 2020, of course.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I love when shows are for a good cause too, not just everybody. I mean, gathering for a car show is awesome, but when there's a good cause attached to it, that's always a bonus.
And we're not taking for granted the fact that since I've been running the car show, this is the toughest economical time we've seen with how the economy is and the price of gas. And, for people to still bring their race cars out and bring their performance vehicles out and then donate money, throw a 20 in the raffle basket or throw $10 in the donation bin when they get a burger. Like, that doesn't go unappreciated. It means a lot. We're living in this world too. And it's almost like you hate asking for people to spend a couple extra bucks because, you just spent $112 to fill up your pickup truck. So like you feel for them. But the fact that everybody came out and was so generous, it's truly touching.
Yeah. Since COVID, it's allowed me some time to think about it. And it seems to me like the culmination of all the negativity in society and missing out on like people's passion, it goes to show you how enthusiastic people are about this hobby and how much, they love it. And they're so passionate about it that for a show to come back and them to be back in season, we're not all sequestered into our houses and, we can finally take off the mask and all that fun stuff. The fact that there was so much negativity in society, I think it's actually boosted people's willingness to step out and help even more because they're in such a good mood. When people are happy, they're in a giving mood, Mm-hmm. So that's very cool.
How can you not be happy when you're getting a free burger and you're looking at other people's cool Mopar products? Like,
absolutely.
It's a good time. So I'm grateful for everybody that came out. And I look forward to doing it. We're on the calendar for June 25th of 2023.
June 25th, 2023.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be, we'll have to have you back on the show to promote that one because I'm all about promoting, as fun as it is to talk about shows like Carlisle, Moparty, and, all the big ones, the little ones, like I said, they need to get some notoriety for all that because I don't think people understand how hard it is to throw an event like a car show. There's so many variables,
Oh, the week before, I literally feel like I need a t-shirt that says, "I'm sorry for what I said when I was planning a Mopar show," because you're just so frazzled and you have this pressure on you that, I worry about things that maybe people that are attending the car show aren't worrying about. But we've grown it to the point that we have our branding and I want everything to look nice and I want my volunteers to present themselves a certain way because I want everybody to understand when they drive in how appreciated they are being there. And, couple that with, is there enough food? Do we have enough bathrooms? What happens if it's 97 degrees and somebody passes out? We have all of these things to worry about. And then you're like, what if nobody shows up? And in the back of your head, that everybody's going to show up and that your friends that you count on are going to be there no matter what, even if there's a hurricane like we had 2021.
Yeah.
But you're like, I don't think I slept the night before because I kept just being like, oh my God, what if 9 o'clock rolls around and the lot's empty? And what do I do then?
The anxiety.
Yeah. It's like, it gets to you. And then you're like sort of running on autopilot and adrenaline and you get through it somehow.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
as far as all Mopar show goes, I didn't get to talk to anybody because all the efforts, they don't stop at 9 o'clock when the show starts. Like there's still so many little things you have to worry about, like taking out the trash.
Yeah.
Who thinks about that? But like somebody has to make sure that the big trash cans are emptied and somebody has to count votes, which is my least favorite of all of it. One of my other car shows that we run, we hired judges this year and we got equally as many complaints, but at least I didn't have to count votes. Like it is so difficult and it's sometimes so close. And you're like, what if that person rounding out the top 10 of whatever is a 4-way tie of people with 3 votes or 1 vote? Like, you're asking 250 people to vote. So it's not easy.
Yeah.
Like I think my list of like, we write the number and we tally it. It was pretty long. Like there were a lot of cars that got votes, and then to look at those top ones and I don't know. So it's a labor of love from like a year before to the day after, and then the next day you start doing the next one. But I'm already excited about 2023.
Is it tough being an event organizer and going to other small events and seeing, maybe where the shortcomings of other events? Do you wish you could, is that tough?
And in retrospect, I pick mine apart,
Mm-hmm.
So I run another show that I've mentioned on the podcast the first time I was here, the Ambler Show, and that's a street show. It's not a benefit show. So they're 2 very different dynamics. But I compare those in how they're run and what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong and how we can adapt a segment of one car show to sort of better the other and likewise. And every car show I go to now, I feel like I'm like in the back of my mind criticizing either theirs or mine. And not in a bad way. Like I would, as somebody that runs a car show, I would never go up to somebody and share some ridiculous something that I think might be a complaint or might be an advice, because advice is usually a complaint in these sort of scenarios, but you find yourself picking up on like in my head, and I do this with Carlisle sometimes too, and here's Carlisle, the grandest Mopar show in the world, and as someone who has walked 10 miles up and down the back driveway at Lansdale Chrysler trying to figure out the most efficient entry and exit plan. Sometimes I'm sitting waiting to get into Carlisle and I'm like, this is what I would do a little bit different. And it's not a complaint, but you're just always like sort of, my mind is always going how I can better all Mopar show. No,
absolutely. When you've been in that seat, and there's always room for improvement, right? And when you have the experience, it makes it a little bit easier to be like, oh, well, this is what I would do.
Right.
Yeah. I did want to say,
go ahead. I cut you off.
I was just going to say hi to everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Miss Mopar has returned, and we're going to talk some Carlisle here in a little bit, but we're talking some car show event stuff, which is fun for me because a long time ago in a galaxy far away, I actually held a car show for my senior project, and it was the biggest nightmare I could have ever imagined. With well, you need an ambulance, you need cops, you need insurance, and it's like, I'm a high school kid. What do you want from me?
Permit.
Yeah.
And those are things you need, and then not to even mention the things you need to promote the event. Like, did you do a press release? Is your press release correct? Because news stations won't touch them if they're not correct. And it's just like all this crazy little stuff. But it's fun. keeps us going, gives us a purpose, I guess.
It
and
does.
Then our hobby would be just us sitting in our garages playing cards, right?
Yeah, it's just funny because I think about how easy the Cars and Coffee organizers have it. They just have to find a place to do it that'll allow them to get there, and it's like super easy, no trophies or anything, just show up. Which, there's a cool dynamic to that too. It's just hang out, bring your car.
We're actually so distraught, my family and I, because every Saturday morning we did Cars and Coffee at Old Forge Motor Cars, which is a fairly popular classic car consignment dealer in our area, and they just got bought and they closed down. So the last Cars and Coffee was actually while we were away at Carlisle. So our last experience there was the weekend before, and it's sad. Like, these people become your sort of weird donut eating family, like everybody has their little place. Like we were the Mopar people, of course, and there was a conference table in the middle of the showroom, and that's where we always sat. And there was a guy that told dad jokes, and he would come up, and there was a guy that was a cop, and he would come up and talk to my sister. And it's like, we're not sure what we're going to do tomorrow morning. Because you're like, I don't know, you get so used to the rhythm of seeing these people and spending the morning with them that they become like this weird little car family.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's funny, the people that I've heard from people from our previous episodes about your show and how amazing it is. It has now ended up on my bucket list of Mopar events, so I hope to make it to that one someday. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Let's talk about Carlisle a little bit.
Yeah.
Every time you post about Carlisle, I'm like, is this a Brass family reunion or what? It seems like your whole family heads out to Carlisle. How many people from your family go?
It's dwindled over the years because, somebody gets married or somebody moves away or whatever. But this year it was myself, of course, my sister. She was there with her 2000 Jeep Cherokee. My dad was there with his 62 Chrysler 300. That was in the T-Building Invitational. It was Mopars in the family display, which is something super cool we could talk about. My uncle was there with his 71 GTX, which has become famous in its own right for this photo that circles all the B-body groups, all the Mopar groups of him pulling his boat out of the water in the late 80s. Like,
I've seen it. It's so cool.
And then his son comes out for the day. He used to come the whole weekend. And I remember in 2013, he was there with me, helping me load my car into the Invitational building. And he walked out the door and he saw this Dakota RT, and he drove home and drove back with the money to buy it. So Carlisle holds a little place in his heart. My dad's best friend, Mike, who's like a pseudo uncle to us, he comes out with us. And a couple of my other cousins used to come. And then we have like our car family, like our good buddy Dave was there. It was his second year showing his 70 Cornet convertible.
Oh, wow.
And then we just run into all sorts of people, kind of like a family reunion, I guess.
I imagine that you don't get much time to just breathe when you're at Carlisle. I'm sure you get approached quite a bit.
It's crazy. Like, my sister calls me and she's like, "Can you come up to the Jeep? I need something." And 2 hours later, she's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm 30 feet." But it's so much fun. I've been showing at Carlisle for a decade now. And, you have your regulars that always come up to you every year. And like, there are some guys like my friends, Bill and his sons, and Dan and his sons. Like, I've seen their kids grow up because they used to be small and they used to come up to me and they used to be like, "Hey, Miss Mopar," and now they're grown, like they're adults. And they still come up and they say, "Hey, Miss Mopar," and it's super cool. But like, you really go through the paces with these people, even though you only see them once, maybe twice a year. But it's pretty nonstop. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. It's nice when I talk to you about it, I can tell how much you love not only your own shows and events, but Carlisle. And I all your posts, I'm like, God, she loves that event. And all the posts I see from my friends, that have gone and that tell me I need to go. I'm like, man, I really need to go to Carlisle at least once. And then, I have ran into some people that will say things about, because you get events where there's like drag racing and all sorts of stuff like involved in the show. But I've never really heard anything about that at Carlisle. I thought Carlisle had some sort of drag race or something, or is it just a burnout competition?
So,
is there even that?
What I gather, back in the day, very close to Carlisle, there's an 8th Mile track, and they used to have some unofficial events there. Like on the Friday night of Carlisle, they would have a big Mopar event. And then, Now this is just what I gathered from over the years. I can't speak for 100%. And then they had a falling out, and now they don't do that anymore. And then Dodge always did the burnout contest. And then they had the thrill rides, but then during the pandemic, Dodge wouldn't come, and this, that, and the other thing. So, but I think this year they had a rolling burnout contest. Okay. So they're bringing some of it back, but they're, for me, Carlisle is predominantly just a amazing
big show.
Car.
Yeah.
And a swap meet. The swap meet is insane.
I need to talk to you about that, because that people know I love swap meets. So they're always like, dude, the swap meet. How crazy is this swap meet?
Crazy. And like, you can't come to Carlisle for one day. People who are like, oh, I'm just going to drive out on Saturday. I'm like, why? Are you going to run it? Like, you're just going to jog through the event? Because you need a solid couple days. You could spend just a day in the swap meet, depending on how much stuff you're looking for and how thoroughly you want to look. Like, there are some super organized vendors who have everything laid out and labeled with costs and year and brand and this, that, and the other thing. And then you have some people who have dozens of milk crates and they just throw them on the grass and hope for the best. Like, so you could potentially find something, you could potentially not. I've certainly spent far more money than I probably needed to in that swap meet over the years. But it's also a place where not only have I found things that I needed, but I've networked with people who have been able to help me after Carlisle is said and done. And a perfect example of that is my dad needed a cab for his 85 W350. And it was last year at Carlisle that we saw one there, and we ran over to it, of course. And the guy said, oh, it's mine. I just bought it. And he said, but go right around that trailer right there and ask for Rich. And we walk around the trailer, and here's this just beaming man. He was so happy and nice, named Rich. And he worked with my dad over the course of the next couple of months, found him the cab. We arranged for it to be delivered at Spring Carlisle. And like, so those are just the kind of people that you meet. Like, everybody's so willing to help. I think these people kind of just want to keep the hobby on the road, which is certainly the attitude that the hobby needs. But, you'll find what you're looking for, but you might have to dig through some junk. Yeah. And, sometimes you see the same guys there year after year, and you're like, if you would just knock $200 off the price of that exhaust manifold, somebody might sell it or buy it, and you might not be lugging it home to Indiana, but to each his own. But one year, this was 2012, I'll never forget it. It was so hot at the fairgrounds, like I think record-breaking heat in the area, that my dad, my cousin, and my sister and I were walking the swap meet, and my flip-flops actually melted to the ground. And people were using like wet washcloths, like like the microfibers that you would wash with, to pick up the pieces that were laying on display in the grass, because from sitting in the sun, they got so hot you couldn't even pick them up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My dad got a carburetor or something that year. I remember him carrying around with a wet rag. And you're just like, what are we doing? So.
That's funny.
You have to experience it. The first time I ever went to Carlisle, I entered the swap meet entrance. And we were just in awe at that. Like, I feel like we zigzagged up and down, up and down, up and down until we finally got the car show, and then we were like just blown away even more. But it's a sight.
Yeah, I hear, like, I can't count how many posts I read on Facebook about, I got 7 miles in today. Like, people were bragging about the mileage they walked. I was like, wow, I guess go get your steps in, I guess.
So it's 84 acres, I think, is what the property that they own is. Half of which is uphill, so good luck. And so for some of their other shows, again, I've never been to their Chevy show or their Ford show, but I believe that there is spectator parking on site or camping on site for some of those shows. But for Chrysler, most every square foot of their 84 acres is show, whether it's the corral or the swap meet or the actual car show. So to see it all, you're walking a lot.
Yeah,
you're walking big hill a couple times. So like, get your cardio in before. When it's 100 degrees and you're standing at the bottom looking up, you're like,
yeah, the pictures I see every year, I'm just like, God, I gotta go. It just looks so cool. Now, you took home some hardware this year. Okay, so what class were you in? What did you win? And how many trophies have you accumulated with the little black dress, your 72 Charger?
Just at Carlisle?
Yes. Just at Carlisle. Did you hear, guys? Just at Carlisle?
So I have I think it was 2014, I placed third in Young Guns. And Young Guns is any Mopar as long as it's owned by somebody 25 or younger. In 2015, I was Tom Wopat's Celebrity Choice winner, which was super cool. I ran into him coming into the gates, and I was like, awestruck. And so I'm like looking at him like how the cartoons with the hard eyes look at somebody, you know. And he was he like looked back at me, and I'm like, oh my God, look, dude. Like, he's like, hey, beautiful car. And I like tried to compose myself enough to thank him. And then celebrity judging happens on Saturday, the event, and this was before I was a celebrity judge, so I'm just like, la, 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 through the show. And one of the Carlisle events employees was like, hey, I think you need to get back to your car real quick. So I'm running back to my car, and now there's my Celebrity Choice Award from Tom Wopat. And I got to stand with him and get my picture taken in front of a general. And it was like a tear kind of moment.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then I won with the Power Wagon one year. And then in 2021 and 2022, I took first place in it's 71 to 74 V-body stock Charger and Super B and Coronet, I think. Maybe not Super, but stock Charger. And
back-to-back years. Wow.
Yeah. But it's always humbling. Like, it's humbling to be on the show field in general, because the quality of vehicles around you is just second to none. Like, you walk down these aisles of cars, and in some retrospect or another, whether it's the quality of their restoration or the fact that they're a survivor or the family story that they share, or, you know, whatever, everybody sort of deserves a trophy. And, you know, you just don't know what to say about it, because you never think that you're the one that should win. And I remember my sister, she's like, oh, the winners list is up. And I'm like, oh, great. Who won my class? Like, I never thought I would win it a second time. So it's very special, I think, to win there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Where do you keep your trophies? Do you have a little display in your house or what?
So I had all these grand plans of, like, when I bought this house, I was going to do the garage all nice and I would hang them all up. But I had a lot of water in my basement last year. We got hit by some bad storms, so my garage has sort of become a catch-all. So once we get everything back downstairs that's supposed to go downstairs, I say we because like my poor dad has to help me. But I'll probably hang them in there somewhere. Yeah. Right now they're like all haphazard. I still have a few hanging in my dad's house. I have one hanging in my office, the Power Wagon trophy, because Power Wagon's sort of the face of All Mopar Show.
Yeah.
So I have all my All Mopar Show posters from each year hanging in my office, and then amongst them is this trophy for this truck that's still kind of funny. But then I have them everywhere. They're in my car trailer, they're in my trunk, they're here, there, everywhere.
It's a tough problem to have. Yeah, I got trophies here, there, you know. That's cool.
The plaque ones are easy because you can just stack them up.
Stack them. You got a stack of them. Oh, that's awesome. I don't know if I'll ever get a trophy for any of my junk, but I would cherish it.
Yes. And you know, at the end of the day, your win is when you get home and you have had a great weekend and your car made it safe. And like I was mentioning to you before we went live here, I drive my car out there. And, you know, when you pull out Wednesday or Thursday morning, whenever you leave, right? You're sort of like, okay, don't let the tread come off a semi and smack up this car. Yeah. Or like, don't. And then this year, everything was going well. It was me. My dad had his 62 in an enclosed trailer. I think it was my uncle, our friend Dave, who's in this beautiful Coronet convertible. I mentioned him earlier. And my sister Haley, she's always the chase car to make sure nothing bad happens to anybody. And we're so close to Carlisle. I mean, like maybe 5 or 6 miles out. And it's like you're sort of breathing then, right? Like everybody's okay. And I'm like looking up and I'm like, what's that? Like it looks like a mist. And I'm like, is something smoking? And I'm getting closer and I'm like, oh God, that's not. There was water cascading over the overpass like a waterfall. You know those rides that you ride at like Six Flags or Jollywood where you sit in a big tube and you go through the lake river and water hits you real hard?
Yeah.
It was like that, of dirty construction water. And it hit the hood of my car hard. Like I jumped a little bit, like, oh my God. And so my first thought was, I just detailed this black car.
Oh,
and
no.
my thought is, oh my God, Dave's in a convertible. Like he got just smacked in the face by this dirty water. Come on, PennDOT. There's blue skies above us. 0% chance of rain. What are the odds that on the day everybody's driving their show cars down the Pennsylvania Turnpike to get to Carlisle, that you're doing some sort of road work above? So you just never know. So to make a point of my story, I feel like the real trophy is when you had a great time and your car is safe and everything went well and nothing broke down and you didn't overheat waiting to get in and nobody door dinged your car. That happened in the modern section this year. I was reading the modern section is on a hill, so it goes down the hill that I was telling you about earlier. Mm-hmm. And the doors on Challengers are pretty heavy. Like you kind of gotta shut them hard. And I guess one got away from somebody on the decline, and it hit into the car next to him pretty bad. So, like, what are the odds? But again, something you need to worry about that you probably wish you didn't have to worry about. So when all is well and the car is home safe, you're kind of like, oh, that's my trophy.
No, yeah, I couldn't even imagine. You said 120 miles away from Carlisle, one way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah, that's an adventure in an old car.
It is. And it's like, it's never cool. And these old cars, they like the cold weather. And a black car, like 2.5 hours. We don't like race down the turnpike by any means. We take our time.
Yeah.
But, so between like our bathroom stop and our stop for lunch, like it takes us 2.5 hours. And like that poor car is just sucking in the summertime sunshine. Like I couldn't imagine the actual temp in the engine compartment after we get there. Like, it's hot. It's hot inside. Damn.
Yeah.
black car in the 12 noon sunshine. It's an experience. It's fun though. I won't ever trailer it again. I trailered it a couple times when I first restored it, and I was a little bit afraid. Not afraid, but like I finished that resto with my dad not but a week before Carlisle. So like there weren't all the kinks worked out yet.
Yeah, sure.
So we trailered it that year, and then the next year I trailered it again. But then afterwards you're like, it's almost safer when you're driving it and you're in control of the vehicle, I think.
Yeah. Every time I've taken my little truck to a show, it doesn't have AC. And usually around here in Washington, it's, somewhat decent weather. And it just gets so hot. And I'm sitting here driving this thing. Sometimes you get stuck in traffic. I'm sweating. I'm just like, it's worth it. It's worth it. I touch the metal on the door. I'm like, oh, shit. Like burn my arm.
It'll burn you. No joke. Like, it's not even like my black seats. I have to put a towel in them sometimes because I'm like, I'm going to get 30-degree burns on my thighs on this time I'm supposed to be. But I mean,
what at Carlisle, if you had to pick your favorite car from Carlisle this year, what was it?
So this is going to be the lamest answer ever.
Awesome.
I'll give you two answers. This one and then a runner-up, right? So this year, my dad got to show his 62 Chrysler 300 in the family history display. And my dad's 62 Chrysler 300, this is only the second time it's been shown at Chrysler Nationals. The first year was 2012. And it was sort of a blur because my mom and I had actually filled out the application in secret because we wanted to get him into the Invitational and surprise him. And my mom passed away, and by the time that we got the acceptance into the Invitational, it was like, I forgot we did this. Like, so it was sort of like a weird dynamic that year, It was something that my mom and I sort of wanted to do with him, and she wasn't there anymore. So it was a very special experience, but I almost think we needed more experience at Carlisle to understand what to expect that year. That was the first year we ever showed a car. So this year, sort of having more experience and knowledge about what to expect, what a true honor it is to be in an Invitational display. So we took it a little bit more serious this year. And I mean, that car is just my favorite car in the whole world because without it, you and I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. And there are so many friends that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet and to make. And so in general, that is my favorite car. And I think it was super well received, especially with the story. But then I also have the opportunity to present a Miss Mopar Celebrity Choice Award. And I'm a black on black Charger girl, like that's just what I like. And I had the opportunity to talk to a gentleman named Nick, and he has a 69 black Charger. And he pulled up to my car and he was sort of telling me about it. And to not ramble on too long or to butcher his story because, your brain sort of goes into overdrive at the end of the day. And you're like, talked to a million people. But he sold the car. And then he found it again on eBay. And the reason that he recognized that it was his was because the center console didn't line up correctly when he sold it. And when they listed it for sale on eBay, the center console still didn't line up correctly. And he got this car back, and he's just out there driving. Like, he's like me. Like, he's just driving it. It's not perfect, but it's his. And it was clearly meant to be his. And, it's just like you could tell that he was just stoked to be sharing that story. So, I picked that one because I thought, sometimes the universe just has a way of bringing these cars into our lives or back into our lives when we need them. And I was just happy that he was able to reconnect with this car and bring it out to Carlisle and in turn share that story with me. So that's why I picked him.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit more about this invitational. How does that work?
So there are a few invitational displays at Carlisle, and they usually go by year. So, for example, 2020 was the anniversary of the 1970 Charger, and they ended up redoing that this year because clearly there were struggles in 2020. So this year they had the 72 reunion year. So 72 Chargers, 72 Challengers. They were all in, I think they were in the Y building this year. So you can fill out the application. I don't think it's gone live yet, but Ed usually gets that live, I think fairly quickly. It has to be by the fall. And you submit a little story, and then this poor guy has to go through and pick which ones he wants in. And there's not a lot of space. When I was in the Invitational in 2013, I was in the female owners display. So they were obviously all Mopars that were owned by women. And I think maybe there were only like 12 to 14 cars in the display. And out of probably that year, there must have been 2,500 cars on the show field. Certainly more than that are female owned. So he has to go through all these applications and pick them. I don't want to say pick his favorites because I've spoke with him in great depth about it, and that's not as easy as it is.
Sure.
So the T building is a little bit larger. There's probably maybe 40, 50 cars in there if I'm just going off the top of my head, maybe less than that. And so this year, that building featured vehicles with family history or family story. And one of the really cool ones was a Hemi Dodge that was equipped with hand controls for a gentleman who was paralyzed. And he was in the military, but I believe the story goes that he was paralyzed in a car wreck. And he ended up drag racing this Hemi car with hand controls. And they had the whole setup there so that you could see how the mechanism worked and stuff. So, after you're done sobbing about how sad this story is, he's since passed away, you do get the opportunity to kind of learn something about how they outfitted these cars so that our veterans and those who were paralyzed in other ways could still access transportation and stuff. So it's pretty cool. So that was the T Building Invitational. Now they have the Survivor tent, which is as easy as it sounds. It's simply survivors. And they think they did Prowlers this year as well. So that you just have to get picked to be in one. And I think you're very lucky if you do get picked because it's a lot of fun. It gives you the opportunity to take in the show from a different perspective, I think. At least for me, when I was in the Invitational, I think you get to connect with more people because the flow is sort of a little bit more organized than just people meandering about. But you also have the opportunity, without worrying about wind or rain or whatever, to sort of display. My dad had a photo album displayed, and he has a large framed poster with the original purchase agreement and some photos of the car towing a travel trailer, him and my mom at their wedding, things like that. The car next to us was owned by a military family, and they had just a plethora of framed photos displayed in front of the car. So it really, being in the Invitational, I think really gives spectators the opportunity to dive into the history of these vehicles. And if you could say, if you've seen 169 Charger, you've seen them all. I think that's completely inaccurate. Every car is different, but being in an Invitational really gives you the opportunity to dive into the story behind the car and why it's so important that car is still gracing our roadways.
Yeah, 100%. I've said it before on the show that is one of my favorite things about the Mopar community is the story behind the cars. Because, I always run into people that just have awesome stories. And I'm just like, man. And sometimes I get a little jealous because I'm like, man, I wish, I wish my car had an amazing story like that. It's something to cherish if you do have a great story. Very, very cool. And that's awesome.
Well, and your car someday could have a story. I know you have a young daughter. Like, who's to say in 20 years she's not going to be sharing the story of her and her dad fixing a car? Like, I think about my 72, and I don't know anything about where it came from other than what we could piece together. So it has lived this whole life that nobody knows about. But they certainly know about my experience and the importance that it's played in my life. And now it's going to Carlisle and winning first place trophies. Like, I feel like there's always the opportunity to make that story. And if only they could talk, I'm sure we have a chit chat about, but.
That was almost the play on words for the name of the show, Talking Mopars, because I encouraged people to tell the story of their cars.
Yeah.
And every car does have a story, but you know as well as I do, there's always like, those epic stories. But I do love the stories about cars that were saved. It just brought back, and like the little black dress has all sorts of adventures. So those stories are fun too. And then you get the stories about the guy who sells a 69 Charger and realizes on eBay that that's the one because the console is off. That's awesome.
And what are the odds? Like, thank God he didn't get in a bidding war with some kook that just wanted to paint it orange and crash it, like, because they're out there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there would have been so many opportunities for that to not work out his way. And I'm so happy for him that it worked out his way. And I'm happy for everybody else because, we got to see it. And for whatever it's worth, you're looking at a line at Carlisle, like, 40 69 Chargers deep. But I think that's what makes Carlisle so great. You know what I mean? Like, he could have been like, oh, I don't have $100,000 restoration job on this car, I'm not going to bring it. But then I certainly wouldn't be here saying, how cool is it that because of a scene that didn't line up, he found this car, right? Like, I don't know. I just think everyone has their place in this hobby. And that's the beauty of Carlisle, is that they all come out to it, and you get to talk to these varying, like, just everybody's from a different walk of life somehow, some way, and this just brings them together, and then we get to BS about all that we love.
Yeah.
So.
The only time I've ever, I'm trying to think to make sure I'm not speaking out of line. And I think I'm right. The only time I've ever talked to somebody about the story of their car and it just did absolutely nothing for me was right before I started the Mopar Hunter, long before the podcast. And I was at a local car show that doesn't happen anymore. And I was walking around taking pictures of cars. And there was this beautiful, it was gorgeous. It was a 70 Charger RT Hemi car, had a photo album with all these photos in it. And kind of eavesdropping as I was taking the car because the owner was there, and he just didn't have like, when you talk to somebody about their car, if they are truly 100% passionate and all in about that car. And he was talking about this thing like a new barbecue or something. I was like, there's something off about this. And I had, commented something to the effect of, oh, it's a real Hemi car. That's cool. And he kind of just blew me off or whatever. And I was looking through the pictures and I was like, his wife was there with her dog. And I was like, man, your husband's got a really nice car here. And then it all became clear when she's like, oh, yeah, he just bought it. And I was like, oh, that's why there's that passion, like if you buy a car, like I would hope that there's a story behind it. Like with the Mr. Norm truck, I saw some comments. Some of you guys have been calling because I made this post about actually being interested in selling my Mr. Norm tribute truck. And I've actually been getting a lot of messages. I'm going to have to answer all sorts of messages and stuff because people are like, no, don't sell it. Because the truck, for me, I didn't build the truck. But, and I've told this story a couple times, so I'll keep it kind of short. At a Good Guys show 7 years ago in 2015, I had never really thought about a Dodge truck being a good Mopar project. I was always, it's a muscle car. I wanted a muscle car at the time. And I was walking through the show field and I look in the distance and there is that truck. And I beelined it for this thing, and I was like, oh my God. And the closer because I've always liked like the old patina trucks and stuff, like the old shop trucks. I always thought they were cool. But this one, just because I was like, I knew it was a Dodge. You know, you see C10 Chevys and stuff, and it's like, okay, another C10. I see this short bed Dodge, and I'm like, oh, I got to go check this thing out. And Murray, the guy who built it, did such a good job with the paintwork and recreating what a Mr. Norm Grand Spalding Dodge shop truck would look like, that it actually fooled me at first. I was looking at it, and I was like, is this really a Mr. Norm shop truck? That's the coolest thing I've ever seen, because the detail is so amazing. Like, he had a fake dealer sticker made that he patinaed that says Grand Spalding Dodge, you know, Chicago, Illinois. And I was like, you know, so the details, I was like, this cannot be fake. And if it is, I was thinking in my head, I was like, if it is, that's an amazing job. And I ended up becoming friends with him, and I wanted that truck. I fell in love, and actually that inspired me to go out and buy a tin grill Dodge truck because of that truck. But that truck I wanted it. I was like, you know, I was one of those people that was like, all right, you know, I don't mind buying somebody's like half-ass project, but buying something that's already done, that's kind of like the, you know, bought not built type thing. So I kind of had that, and I was like, oh, you know, I didn't build it, but it's still so cool. And the truck changed my life when it comes to Mopars, because it opened the door to these trucks, and now I love them, and I'm always looking for them. And I ended up 5-6 years later buying it, and now it's mine. And I contemplated, because I still want a B or an E body, and I'm a quick satisfaction guy. Like, I can't wait, you know what I mean? And I'm like, the quickest way to get to one of those is to sell my pride and joy. And people are flipping out because they think I'm just going to sell it without like thinking about it. And I'm like, no. You don't understand what it would take for me to sell this truck, my dream truck, because it is my dream truck. I own my dream truck. Not a lot of people can say that they own their dream, whatever. So I have this dream truck, and I'm like, you have to understand what it would actually take for me to sell it, you know, and it would be so ridiculous. Someone would have to want it and see more in that truck than I ever did, which is crazy, because that truck changed my life. Yeah. So if somebody wanted to fork out the cash or trade me something unbelievable, and whatever trade offers there would be, it would have to be something that moved me as much as that truck moved me when I saw it. So for those of you thinking that I'm just trying to cash in on a quick dollar or something, you're completely wrong. I don't think anybody's going to come close to a good offer or a good trade. And one guy actually said, what makes this truck so special? And I was like, you know, you've got a good I was like, well, you got a good point. It's special to me, so I guess to anybody, it's special to me. So if it's not special to you, I get that. I guess I'm deep down, I'm really hoping that nobody loves it as much as I do, so that I can do, all right, I'm keeping it. Because ideally, my dream would be to put a second generation Hemi in it. So what if Mr. Norm had that truck on the Grand Spalding lot, and he took it into the shop and said, all right, boys, let's do something to this. I would hope that he would put a Hemi in it. So, and as much as I like the Gen 3 Hemis and the people that are doing the modern swaps, even if I swapped in a modern Hemi in that truck, I think I still wouldn't be satisfied until I put a real Hemi in it. You know, that would, because I've seen one Little Red Express truck that had a legitimate 426 Hemi in it. Now, if that guy came to me and said, hey, I'll trade you this Little Red Express with the Hemi, I'd probably pat it. Bye, Mr. Norm. It was nice having you. I'll see you later. But I don't think that will ever happen. But it would take so much that it's. And one guy even commented, he's like, isn't this like the fifth or the second or third time you posted it and then backed out? I was like, yeah, it's like fifth or sixth time I've done it. Because I really, deep down in my heart of hearts, I know nobody would give me what I wanted. And then there's that moment where they're like, here's the cash. And I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? But for me, a lot of the fun of this hobby is the chase. Every time I buy another car, that same night I'm on Craigslist or surfing through Marketplace. I'm like, this is a drug. That Mopars are a drug. It's dangerous. You know what I mean?
Of them.
I'm
hard.
I am so thankful sometimes that I'm married, because I would be living in a trailer park, single wide, just front yard packed full of Mopars, backyard packed full of Mopars. I'd have a couple in the carport. It would be disastrous.
Well, get to Carlisle and go through the car corral, because there's everything there, from like projects to perfectly restored vehicles. And my sister and I were walking through and like a little bit joking, but a little bit not. We're like, so do you want to go halves on that? Because it's like, I have junk sitting in my house that needs to be fixed. Like, but also I'm like, what's one more?
Hey, it's a sickness when not only do you have a Roadrunner project sitting in your garage, but you also have a trophy winning Charger that's won 2 years in a row. And you're like, hey, you want to split that one, sis?
To get that one, like, and it's like, I don't know what sort of, like, it's sort of an indescribable fulfillment that, like, even when I just got this W300 last year, you're just like, I don't know, it gives me butterflies, and in some way that, maybe somebody out there listening gets it because they've been in that situation where they've bought something that they didn't really need, but they needed it. Like, yeah. And when you walk the corral at Carlisle, like, it's, especially if you walk it after you've seen some of the show field, like, you're walking through it and you're looking at this. I think what we were actually joking about was a Ram Charger, and you're looking at the Ram Charger that, like, I mean, you could drive it to shows, but, like, also you could really do it up, like the one that you just walked by in the truck section. And it's like your endorphins are extra high at Carlisle when it comes to what you might want to buy, because you're looking at all these beautiful cars and you just know that in some retrospect or another, that has the potential to be that. I can't drive more than one car to Carlisle. Why do I need more? But kind of, I want to have more. Like, oh, yeah. You vision it on that show field, and you're like, it's a good idea to just get another one.
Yeah, the most dangerous I've ever been was I went to go buy, before I got the Mr. Norm truck, I really wanted another tin grill because I had a blue one that was on air ride suspension. It was a cool truck, had a slant six in it. I had a bunch of big dreams for that, but I was getting nowhere with the project, and I was inspired just to sell everything I had and start over, because I was kind of in a stalemate with my projects, and I was like, I need that inspiration again. And because I'm so addicted to looking for cars for sale, I was always seeing things, and I ended up selling everything I had. So I had a bunch of cash, and I go to buy this truck, and it turned out it was a complete disaster. The title didn't match the cab, didn't match all the numbers were wrong. And so I backed out, and I was so mad on the way home because I rented a trailer. And I was way far away from home. And on my way home, I'm like, okay, I got this pocket full of cash. And this is where the disease and the sickness comes in. I know where all these Mopars are sitting in people's yards and driveways. I went to I'm not even exaggerating. I went to every single one of them, knocked on doors. People would like look, and I'd hold up a wad of cash, and they'd run to the door. And I threw everything I had at every single one of those cars that they actually answered the door, and nobody bit on my offers. And I had some strong offers with the exception of one. There was a 70 Challenger A66 car that I knew about, and I knew it was blown apart. All the parts were, in storage or whatever, but I had never talked to the guy. So I went there and knocked on the door, and his wife kind of peered out, and I held up the wad of cash, and I was like, I'd like to talk about the Challenger. So she gets her husband, I forget what his name, like Ed. And so Ed comes out. I don't remember his name. So he comes out, and I'm like, hey man, I've got a pocket full of cash, and I really like that Challenger. What's the story on it? So he starts telling me the story, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, man, level with me. What would it take to buy it? And at the time I had $12,000 in my pocket, which in the grand scheme of Mopars isn't really much. And the cars that I was looking at, this was like the craziest car out of all of them. And it was just an A66 70 Challenger. And he's like 30 without a skip. He's like $30,000. And I was like, good God. And I was like, I kept my composure, and I said, I have $12,000 cash here. I was like, I will go to the bank right now and get another $5,000 cash and put $17,000 in your hand today, and you can get a spot in your driveway back. And he basically laughed in my face. He's like, yeah, 30,000. And I was like, 29? I didn't even have $29,000. And he's like, 30,000. I was like, all right, this is a lost cause. Have a nice day, sir. I'll be back some other time. But dangerous with money. And when I go to, like, if I was at Carlisle in the car corral, before I even found something to buy, I would probably the ideas that would be going through my head are, okay, if I found something cool enough, how would I even get it home? I'd have to, I'd be like, what kind of shipping companies are around? Like, it's a disease. It's dangerous. If I had a lot of money, my God, I would have too many cars. It would be bad.
I want to share a quick story with you, but it only involves me a little bit. When I was probably in high school, there was this old, it was a 70 Charger that drove around town, and the couple owned a local pool shop, like a pool supplies place. And their last name was Fretz. And my dad and I would always talk about this car. It was an orange Charger. For years, we tried to get that car. We'd leave notes, we'd knock on the door, and the owner always said no. Her husband had passed away. She drove it for a long while, and she parked it in the garage. And sometimes we'd drive by there without being suspicious and be like, "Can you see it? Is it still in it? Is it still in there?" And a friend of mine that I worked with, he was like, I'm just going to knock on the door and ask. And he knocked on the door, and he got a phone number, but it was still like, nope, not selling. So a couple of years go by. My sister is dating this guy, and she sends us a picture. Now, this is my middle sister. She couldn't tell you a Chrysler from a Pontiac if the Chrysler hit her upside the head. She sends us this picture of this orange Charger, and she says, "Look at what my boyfriend's dad is working on in his body shop." And damn if it's not this orange Charger that we've chased for years and years and years and years. So they send us a couple more pictures, and, we're like, bummer, wish we could have got that thing. A couple of weeks ago, I pull into Cars and Coffee that I mentioned is over now. And there's an orange 70 Charger. And I'm like, that has to be the Fretz car. So I walk into Cars and Coffee, and I say to my dad, I'm like, is that the Fretz car? He's like, no, that one had to be a Charger 500 because it didn't have hidden headlights. And this one had the hidden headlights down. And I'm like, bummer. I thought maybe that was it. Anyway, like, we're the Mopar table at Cars and Coffee. So over comes this guy named Jerry. And lo and behold, this is the Fretz Pool Place Charger. 70 Charger. And he had it restored. He left a note for that woman, or he met her and gave her his number. Regardless, they held on to his number for all those years. And when the mom passed, the two daughters called him and sold him this car. And he ended up showing us how years and years and years prior, the hidden headlight motor seized. So she just tacked the hidden headlights up, and he still had the wire in there. He left it in there that they had used to hold those hidden headlight doors open for all of those years that we thought it didn't have hidden headlights. Here they were just tacked up. So this car, after years and years of being off of the road, has made it back on the road. And, would I have loved to have it? Of course, but it has a great home in it. It's just cool when you see something make its return to the asphalt.
Yeah, it's almost like a win for Mopar enthusiasts because the car that couldn't get sold got into the right hands. Even if they weren't yours, it's like, that's still cool, that somebody was able to get it.
So many people think that they're doing a justice by not selling these cars to someone that's going to love it and drive it and show it and fix it and whatever. And then their car ends up turning into dust or a, cube of metal at a junkyard somewhere. And to know that one was able to live to see another day, it's pretty cool. I hope that Challenger that you didn't get lives to see another day.
I hope so. I don't have the cash anymore, so it's going to have to go to somebody else at this point. Now, if somebody offered me a bunch of cash for the Mr. Norm truck, would I go back and make another offer? It wouldn't be no $30,000 offer. That's a cool car, but in the condition it's in, I mean, it's solid. Don't get me wrong, but $30,000, I got to at least be able to roll it onto a trailer. You know what I mean? That thing is in pieces.
Weighted now, though. Everybody thinks that their car, and this isn't even just classic / collector pieces. Like, people think that they're 2008 1500 is worth $25,000 because they read an article somewhere that the truck market is hot. Like, everybody thinks that what they have is worth more than it is probably worth.
Let's speak on that for a minute, because you're in the car business. So I'm curious to see, especially now, I recently somehow convinced my wife that we needed a truck again because I sold my Ram, and I missed it, realizing that I'm a homeowner. It's nice to have a truck around, you know? Yeah. So I somehow convinced her to trade in her beloved Grand Cherokee for a truck for me. And that was used. But they gave us, like, because I had certain numbers that I had to meet because my wife gave me the numbers and said, good luck. Basically, this is what we can afford. Good luck. And being the relentless guy I am when it comes to cars, I was like, all right. So I tried to make a couple deals that just didn't work. And I got to the point where I called the dealership on a truck and I said, here's the number. Here's my trade in. This is what I need for it. This is the monthly payment I need. No money down, nothing. The only money you're getting is off this trade, you know, for this car. And I'll be damned if I didn't get $3,500 over Blue Book on it, which was surprising to me. You know, it's a nice Grand Cherokee, but it's a Grand Cherokee. You know what I mean? They're a dime a dozen. So there's something going on with the used car market. Are you experiencing the same thing?
Oh, yeah. It's actually settled, I think, a little bit from what it was probably a year ago or so at this time, maybe less than a year. But I've been in the industry a decade, and I know I work alongside people who've been in it longer than me, and it's just unlike anything that we've ever seen. But it's volatile and it fluctuates. You know, just because certain things are hot doesn't mean everything is hot. And there was a time there where we just couldn't stock new trucks. And think about the way that people utilize a truck. Construction companies, businesses, homeowners, people that tow a camper, tow a boat. Like, you don't really have many other options. You can't just say, oh, I'll just tow my boat next year. Let me hop in this sedan, right? Yeah. So when the truck market, when we couldn't produce trucks, I don't know if you know much about our Ram truck plant up in Sterling Heights, but I believe the number was, when it was functioning at full capacity pre-pandemic, that every 45 seconds a new truck came off the lot.
Oh, wow.
Now, cut that in thirds because they laid off or furloughed, whatever, when they had to space people 6 feet apart and this, that, and the other thing, like, and then they cut third shift or whatever. So we saw an incredible decrease in new truck inventory. So that, of course, was really raising the price of used truck inventory. And, but, you know, like, I had a guy that came in with a 2008 and he was looking at a new 2500, which still to this day, they're so light as far as like what is on the lot that they don't sit long. Like, we don't sit on a 2500 for a week. It sells rather quickly. So he's looking at one, and, you know, me as the salesperson, I'm thinking, like, there's not another black on black night edition 2500 Bighorn in 55 miles. Like, I'm going to stay late and take this up because he's probably going to buy this truck. And he got all whacked out because he wanted $25,000 for his 2008 Hemi that, like, was beat to hell because he's a contractor. And you have to just remind people that, like, yes, there are inflated trade-in values of a lot of cars that are very sought after, but not every vehicle is being impacted by this. And I don't think people quite grasp that sometimes. Like, I can't turn around and sell an 08 1500 that needs body work on every panel of the truck as easily as I can sell a 2019 DT Bighorn black, you know, night edition package. They're very hot. So, you know, there are lines in the sand, but overall the used car market has been pretty wild.
Are you, as a salesperson, are you the one that assesses a trade-in and assigns a value to it? No.
So I do kind of the legwork, but I take all that data and then to my pre-owned manager, because, we're looking at data that kind of changes by the day. Like it's really so volatile. And there's also a lot of gray water in that we're working with a lot of sold orders. So customers are coming in and what we have on the lot is so minimal that they have to order something the way they want it in order to get it. And it could be 3 months, it could be 11 months. We don't know. So we have to sort of tread lightly in those kind of situations. And I don't want to be responsible for that. So I let the head honcho be responsible for that.
Yeah. So you still stay the good guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do this. I'm curious, coming from your side of the desk, how does somebody get a good deal on a car?
I mean, I think it really depends. Like, the dealership I work for, inventory is priced to sell. So we're not going to mark it up ridiculous. Like I just sold a TRX for MSRP.
Really?
It was a sold unit, but like I wasn't going to mark it up $15,000 on the dude. Like that's just not how I prefer to do business. And I would rather him have a good experience and feel as if he's treated fairly and come back to me in the future than realize that I marked it up 15 when his friend got his marked up for 12. And even though they both sort of got the short end of the stick, that he got it worse. Like, I just want my customers to feel appreciated and understood, and I want them to have a good experience. And maybe that's not the most profitable approach, but like, I'm a long hauler in the business. This isn't just the job I'm working today, and in 2 years I'm going to be, selling insurance. Like, this is my career, and I want to make a good name for myself in the business. So I feel like if you buy a car from me, you get a good deal regardless, and you certainly get a good experience. I don't want to take advantage of anybody because I wouldn't want anybody taking advantage of me.
True. And, you sell the guy a truck for a good deal, and you may sell him another truck and another truck and another truck, and he's going to tell his friends, blah, 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 blah. And it goes that. I'm a firm believer in word of mouth, because back when I had all that cash, it got to the point where around here at that time that I had all that cash, of course, it was the one time that no worthy vehicles popped up on the local Craigslist or marketplace. And I was like, every time I am broke and don't have the cash, there's so much. It's like a plethora. I'll take that one and that one and that one. And then when I have all this cash, there's nothing. So bad. Like I said, I had to go to all the ones I knew about sitting in people's yards and try and just throw stuff at the wall and see what stuck. Nothing stuck. So it got to the point where I was like, that's it. I'm going to go buy a new Charger, because it was between the Charger and the Challenger, and that was a family discussion. So I was like, all right, I'll get a wide body Charger. And I was sitting down at the table, placing the order and putting in, everything I wanted. And of course, this is how addicted I am. I'm looking at my phone at local Chargers for sale, and I see a wide Charger in Go Mango at another dealership about 30 miles away. And I was looking at their website, and I forget exactly what the price was. It was ridiculous. It was like $42,000. And I was like, and we had just got done talking the numbers. I forget exactly what they were, but I was getting a pretty basic. I just wanted a wide body Charger with a sunroof and the red suede, the red Alcantara. I was like, that's what I want. Just black with the red guts. That's what I wanted. And I saw that one. I was like, orange. I'm the kind of jerk that would drive around in an orange wide body Charger. I was like, yeah, sure. And the price was unbelievable. It was under what I had just been quoting and what we were talking about. So I did the jerk move, and I said, you know what? Hold on. I need to go call my wife about something. And then I came in and I said, guys, I need to think about this for a couple of days. I need to sit down with my wife. She's flipping out. And I went over to this other dealership. This is, buyers are liars. That's what they say. They're right some of the time. I was just trying to get out of there because I was in almost too deep where I'm about to start signing some stuff. Yeah. And I was like, let me just figure this out, because the deal was pretty good over there. So I get over there, the next day with my wife and daughter, and I'm all stoked. I got all this money down and I'm ready to make this deal on this car. And somehow my wife was like, all right, if you want an orange car, I guess. It's like, all right. So we get there and my heart about sunk because I looked at the price and I was like, okay, yeah, that's the price. And then I look at the second sticker and I'm like, that's a $10,995 markup. And yes. And it even said on the website, it's like sale price. And I was like, hey, can I talk to somebody? I was like, this is the sales price. I was like, come on, guys. I was like, I came all the way out here. I only lived 10 miles away. I was like, I came all the way out here with my family. And they're like, sorry, dude, there's a chip shortage. And this is the only one in 2 states, this color. And they were right. So I knew, because as soon as I found that orange one, I went and looked for other ones. There was not another one. So I was like, okay, you got me there, dude. But 10 grand, come on.
Wild.
It was crazy. I was like, I'm ready to buy today, and they weren't having it there. And they pulled the old, well, if you don't buy it, somebody else will. And I was like, ouch, which is true, though. The car was sold in like 2 weeks.
Especially in this market. Like, it's been the first time that I think people in my profession have really just put their feet up and been like, well, you're not going to take it. Yeah. Sorry. Like, we're not in the position to beg because we don't have to. Yeah,
absolutely. Are you guys starting to get performance cars again? I noticed that there was a shortage of performance cars. It seemed they were being allocated.
I think a lot of that is political. Not to get into that, but I do really believe that the holdup on performance cars has way less to do with the chip shortage and a lot more to do with the Green New Deal. But like I had a sold unit go missing. It sat in delay for 3 months and nobody knew why it was there or where it actually was. And then the customer got involved and contacted Dodge, and eventually it just showed up. Like, I don't know. I have a lot of conspiracy theories.
I'm probably right there with you. It's actually funny. That was another thing that kind of, I was getting nervous when I was signing the paperwork because we had talked, and it was, I forget what month, we'll say February. And they told me that I wouldn't be getting the car until well into summer, closer to the end of summer. And the idea, because I was like, okay, let me ask you this. What if the car gets here? And I'm like, I'm not really feeling the red. And they're like, well, you ordered the car. And they're like, you're going to have to put down, a little earnest money, like you're going to have to put some money down. And I was like, gosh, I just don't know if I'm ready for that kind of commitment right now. So well, I can't stand waiting. Like I said, I'm impatient. Like waiting for a car is ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's becoming the norm. And you think about how many things can happen in the course of 3 months to 6 months to 11 months. And for example, I had a very well-equipped 1500 ordered, and it took 11 months to come in because it was at the height of the chip shortage, and it had everything in it. So the more stuff they have in it, the longer they take. And in that time, the gentleman lost his job and couldn't get the funds to buy the truck. So you never know. This whole thing has certainly shifted the way our industry works. In some ways for the better, in a lot of ways for the worse. But it's just, and what happens when you're minding your own business and a SEPTA bus hits you and your car is totaled? And what's on the lot is not what you want. Like, I would be throwing a fit and a half if I had to get a new Challenger and I had to go without mine for 6 months because I had to order one and wait for it to come in, and my color is gone and this, that, and the other thing. Like, so it just, I don't know.
You're all mad because you bought the Gap insurance. Like, I bought the Gap insurance, damn it. And let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I know it's your business, so I'm not going to try to get into it too much. But I got into it so when I was out looking at used trucks, I got into it with this dealer because I went in there with certain numbers. And they said, oh, yeah, we can make it work. And then they sat down. And of course, they started attacking on all this shit. And I was like, hey, man, I forgot what they added. Something to do with the window etching. And I was like, what's this $600 here? And they're like, oh, it's the window etching. I was like, I don't want that. And they're like, well, it's already been done. And I was like, well, I mean, can we take that? You know, so I'm doing my stupid little negotiation tactics. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll work the numbers here and here a little bit. And then I ran my credit and they came back and they gave me a rate. And I was like, hey, you and I both know you padded that a little bit with a couple points. And the guy's looking at me and he's this Asian guy. It's so funny. What was his name? I think his name was Paul or something like that. Anyway, he's like, oh, you good dealer. You good deal. I was like, okay. And he's like, you hard. You know the business. I was like, I have a couple friends in the business, so I know a little bit how it works. So I was like, you got to come down on the points, dude. And he's like, oh, those are the rates. That's your credit. And I was like, I just bought a car 9 months ago and my rate is almost 2 points lower. And he's like, I could just see him in his eyes. He's like, shit. And he's like, hold on. Because I said, I'm not going to play this game where I stand up and I go outside and you catch me right before I open the door. You know what I mean? So we went back and forth a couple times and he was telling me, oh, the rate can't be adjusted. And then I got 2 points lower right where I was at with my current loan. And I was like, see, that wasn't so hard, was it? And we were talking numbers and they couldn't get to my monthly payment. And they were trying to add on more months and stuff. I was like, no. And he looks at me and he goes, Chris, it's simple math, dude. Simple math. And I said, here's simple math. I was like, that $71 extra that you're saying, it's just $71. I was like, that $71 times however many months this loan is adds up to thousands of dollars. That's the simple math, dude, you're talking about. I was like, you're out of your mind. But it gets to the point where, because I told him, I was like, I don't buy used vehicles without a service contract. And the best service contract you have, I want everything covered, bumper to bumper. I don't want any surprises. I don't want any denials. I want it all covered. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we'll get you the best one. And it was like $5,000. And I was like, hey, guys, come on, $5,000. I was like, I know you guys are getting these for like $1,500 or whatever. I was like, I'm sure we can meet somewhere in the middle. And they're like, these are not negotiable. And I was like, guys, we just went through non-negotiable stuff before. I was like, I'm not asking for a deal where I feel like I stole the truck from you. I'm asking for a fair deal. $5,000 for a service contract. I was like, you're making money on me if you sell it to me for $3,000. And they just would not do it. And so I did the thing. I said, hey, I'm getting up and I'm leaving. And the guy goes, oh, let me go talk to my sales manager. And I'm standing there and there's these poor Hispanic gentlemen that I was overhearing their conversation, and their salesman was like, I got you a killer deal. It's 11%. And they were sticker shocked. And I got up, and while my salesman was gone and theirs were gone, I was like, man, I hate buying cars, huh? And they're like, oh yeah, it's crazy. And I was like, hey, that 11% he's talking about, you could probably get it for like 7, dude. You just sit there for a couple. I'm like the guy they hate. And there's another salesman kind of sitting there looking out the window. And he's like, why do you say you hate buying cars? And so we got into like a little 10-minute discussion about it. And I was like, it's this back and forth. I told you where I needed to be. It's simple. You either can do it or you can't. And I was like, the fact that you keep going back and forth tells me there is room for negotiation, and you keep telling me there isn't. I was like, just give it to me straight. Can you do it or not? And we don't have to waste each other's time. So me and this guy talk, and he's kind of laughing it up, and I'm looking at him. He's like, gold watch, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, this guy, he might not be a regular salesman. To make a long story short, we couldn't come up with the deal. And I said, look, Paulie, or whatever his name was, Charlie, something like that. I was like, look, I'm going to walk out that door and go to my vehicle. I was like, this is your last chance, dude. I'm not playing follow me out to the truck. Oh, wait. I'm not playing that, dude. I don't want to do this. We've been here long enough. We've been here for 3 hours. So he's like, sorry, can't help you. I was like, all right, see ya. He comes out and he's like, what if we could get you the service contract for $3,500? And I said, you just spent 2 hours telling me it was non-negotiable. I was like, dude, hey man, have a nice day. Cause I knew even at that number, I knew where the numbers had to be for me to get the payment I wanted, which I thought was funny. And then I ended up finding the truck that actually worked for me. And I got an amazing service contract. It's like 100,000 mile, 7-year service contract for $3,000 or 20 something. 2,000 something. So I was like, perfect. That's all I wanted. They got my payment. They got a lower interest rate than I wanted. So it's actually less than I had planned to pay. So I was like, how hard is that? But the night I went home after trying to buy the other truck, the salesman that was sitting there with the gold watch called me. And as it turns out, he's like the floor manager or whatever. And so I realized that I had just got done talking shit about buying cars to the floor manager. And he tried to work the deal with me because I knew I was watching the clock. I was like, all right, it's 5 o'clock. They close at like 7. So we'll see. And it's like 6:30, 6:38. And I'm like, wow, they're not going to call me. 6:45 on the dot. And it's him. And I was like, were you the guy sitting there that I was talking to you about hating buying cars? And he was like, yeah, that's me, man. I was like, I was like, so what do you got for me, dude? What do you got? Yeah.
It's become such a performance selling cars, which is bullshit for people like me.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm a car girl and I want people to like their cars like how I like my cars.
Yeah.
I don't know. And you know, the people that have created that reputation are getting a bit hard now, and so are we, because like rates are high now.
Yeah, they're pretty crazy.
And you know, you quote somebody that's an 800, you quote him a 6, and he thinks that there's room, and sometimes there's not. Like, I'm sorry, that this is just a sign of the times that we're living in. So, like, you know, it sucks that so many people create that reputation, because in a lot of times it gives people a little bit of false expectation when they walk in. And as we mentioned before, you know, we're sort of still in that, okay, well, if you're not going to buy it, somebody's going to buy it. So we can't bend over backwards, because we may not see another one of these cars for 6 months. Like, my dealership's a Fiat dealership, and we've been out of Fiat since January, I think. Maybe February, first week of February, and we won't see another one till October. So it's like...
That's crazy. All Fiats? There's not one Fiat on the lot?
Nope.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. For me, it's just about honesty. If I go in there with a number, you know, don't try to work me. If that's the number I gave you, then I tried to tell the guy, I was like, look, I'm married. That's the number my wife gave me. Are you married? He wasn't married. And I was like, oh, so you don't get it. This is the number I've been given. I was like,
if he really couldn't do that number, in 15 minutes, he could say,
yeah,
I really want to help you get in a vehicle. I can't get to this number on this vehicle, but here's something we could look at that might work. And then you could either tell him to F off, goodbye, I'm going somewhere else, or maybe it works out. Yeah. And you just never know. But I think the best practice is to just be upfront and be honest. And
in his defense, he did try that. He's like, well, I do have some other stuff on the lot. And he's like, just come look. So I was like, all right, show me what you got.
Well, was it close to what you were looking at, or no?
No, it was over 100,000. I was like, hey, dude, this is a piece of shit. I was like, and he's like, I want that one. That's why we're sitting in there for 2 hours, because I want that one. And now you're trying to sell me this one. You got to show me something comparable. And it was just so far off. And, you know, I appreciate honesty. If I come in with a number and you know you can't do it, don't try to jerk me around. You know what I mean? It's wasting our time.
My time is valuable, even if I'm time lunch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not getting these minutes back.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Out there like, driving a cool car, wouldn't you want to be spending most of your time doing that? I would want to be doing.
Yeah, for me, like, I get it. You guys need to eat too. You know, I'm not trying to steal the car from you. I know you're going to make some money. That's fine. But, you know, when you tell me something's absolutely not negotiable, and then you go into the manager's office and then you come back and it's like, all right, we did this for you. Like, you're a hero. It's like, dude, we could have eliminated that whole 45 minutes of BS. You know what I mean? But the whole simple math, dude, simple math. I'm like, yeah, it is simple math. Let me show you something. It's just, there's a right way to sell cars and there's a wrong way. It makes me wish that I was in a position where I could give it a shot, because I can sit here and judge somebody in your profession all day long, but I've never been on that side of the table. But I've met some amazing salespeople, but I've even had friends in the business where I got into the finance office and I'm like, wait a second, what? what is this? I was like, we already talked price. You're not adding all this stuff. He's like, oh, you want the paint protection film on the front? I was like, no, I don't. I was like, I know enough about. I would have told you that. I was like, there's no. I always disappoint him because I'm like, hey, I know this part is where you start tacking on all the fun stuff. I was like, I don't need the spill protection. I don't need all that. I was like, I appreciate you. I really do. But this is going to be a waste of our time. I'm just here to sign paperwork, dude.
Yeah.
But it is a fun business, right?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's why I want to be the best kind of salesperson that I can be, because I want to be, if the business goes electric,
here we go.
it'll probably be my time to find something else. But until it goes, right now we're still having fun selling Hellcats and TR and Jeeps and stuff like that. So I'm loving it, and I want to be involved in it for as long as I can. But, without...
Look at that.
That's my friend Dave. He's the one with the purple Coronet.
Awesome.
And Dave is my favorite kind of customer because he's just chill and we have the best time.
Yeah.
He just knows I'm going to take good care of him, and I know that he's just going to be a great time to talk to. And it makes the experience fun. If all my car sales were like that, I'd be happy. But I want to be the best kind of car salesperson that I can be, because I want to be in it for a long time. And it's generally a profession where there's a high rate of turnover because a lot of people. And I feel lucky to have made it a decade. And I hope I have the opportunity to put a lot more years in, but I won't sell anything that I can't believe in.
100%. Have you been at the same dealership the entire decade?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's awesome. My friends that are in the business, they both have been salespeople and they've jumped into the sales manager's position. And at the time, they were at Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram.
Yeah.
And then it didn't work out at that dealership and they left. And I was like, how am I supposed to buy cars from you when you're working at Volkswagen or something? You know what I mean? I'm like, you're killing me right now, man. Oh.
I do have a couple friends that I went to high school with that work at, competitive brands, and we piggyback sometimes in the event that somebody drives a F-150 and they say this looks cheap and plasticky inside, and I give him a little spiff to send me his customers that want a Ram. It's worked out in my favor a lot more than it is. But right now, I think our products are really at the top of their game, and I think it'll be really sad to see it diluted by this whole shift to EV, because our trucks are beautiful, and you can look at the competitive brands and aesthetically they're not as pleasing, most especially inside. So it's very easy to sort of bring people to our dark side, I guess. So I really hope that there's able to be some sort of shift before we really see the new car market turned into Power Wheels.
Yeah. Do you have any inside information? I know somebody, I think his name's Alex, earlier in the chat asked if you knew anything yet about the new muscle car coming out, the new EV muscle car.
All I know is that they'll be making this shift to e-muscle. I don't necessarily know what that entails, and it could very well be because I don't have any interest in knowing, because it's not something I intend to stand behind.
Yeah. I've heard some interesting rumors. I heard that they were coming out that SRT is still sticking around and that they are coming out with some sort of hybridized version of a 6.4 Hemi, I believe. And I was like, huh? I was like, that's more intriguing to me than a full electric car. But let me ask you this, because I've been asked this a couple times. And they say, what if this electric car looks so amazing and it is the coolest looking car? And my argument is always, yeah, but there is no turning the key or hitting the start button and hearing the growl. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about.
You'll certainly lack that sound component, which I think is so important. Like in new vehicles, old vehicles, whatever, Like, do you have any friends that are like, oh, put quiet pipes on this stuff? No, we like to hear it rumble. It's fun. I blow through $4.99 a gallon gas because I like the way it sounds when I push my foot to the floor. Like, and to your point, it can be the coolest looking car to ever grace God's green earth. I don't want to be taken for the idiot that's made to think that because there's no smoke coming out of the tailpipe, that it's so environmentally friendly that it's worth me investing in something that you just don't see the dangers of it. You don't see the effects of mining lithium or an ion, and you don't see the effects of what happens when these lithium ion batteries catch fire and it takes 4, 5, 6 times the water to extinguish them. Nobody sees the effects of what's going on at the bottom of the ocean where a ship full of electric vehicles burned up and sank. That doesn't seem very environmentally friendly to me. So, I refuse to be one of these people that follows some sort of blind crowd simply because I'm told that there's some sort of holier than thou component of owning one of these electric vehicles. My gas car has never done me wrong. And I could certainly be doing worse things to the environment than freaking stepping on it going up a hill because I like to hear my exhaust. Like,
yeah, no, 100%. It's all smoke and mirrors with these electric vehicles, I feel. And like Texas is like, hey, hold up on charging your cars. We're overloading the system. It's like, hey, you guys are I can't wait to see when California goes all electric. Like they won't sell new, like a lawnmower's got to be now. This is coming from a guy who loves his battery powered lawnmower because I'm the jerk. Like last weekend, I got up at 5 a.m. and I went outside, opened the garage. My garage door is loud. It's 5 a.m. in the neighborhood. Everybody's dead asleep. And I open the garage door and it's like, and it opens up and I'm like, nobody's stirring. And I'm like, damn it, I'm going to mow this lawn early today while it's still cool outside. I fired that stupid little thing up and it's like, I was like, perfect. Nobody can hear it. Now, I would never get away with that with a gas mower. So forgive me, everybody who's saying, oh, gas mowers and stuff. I'm sorry. I got an electric lawnmower. Okay. Forgive me. But as far as cars go, like this is going to sound corny, but the other morning, I usually auto start my truck before I go out to it. But this particular morning I forgot. So I go outside. I'm like, oh, damn. So I get in the truck. And I'm sitting there and there's this like, I don't want to call him a stray. He's like the neighborhood cat. And he's kind of sitting on the grass out front. And this is why I like cars. Because my truck has a Flowmaster exhaust on it. So, and it's the loud muffler. So there's Super 10s on it. So it's not too loud because it still has the resonators. But it's like, it sounds comparative to a Scat Pack. So I get in the truck. I see the cat and I fire it up and it scared him. And I was like, I'm so cheesy because I was like, yeah, scared the cat. Like, got him. Like, you don't get that with an electric car.
No, you
Sorry.
don't.
But yeah, I just I want to be on board, because it's so much faster. Like, I don't care. There's always going to be somebody faster. I want to be able to sit there and I love driving the Mr. Norm truck because it's got a nice lope to it. So when I pull up to a light, I can be 20 cars back and it's just sitting there. And you see the people like, oh my God, what is that? I love that. I love that feeling. Nobody's ever done that for a Tesla. Nobody's ever gone, wow, that car is so quiet. What car is so quiet? I can't, nobody's ever done that. So
they have their place, like everything. If you want to have an electric car because it makes you feel like you're contributing to the planet somehow, have at it.
Yeah.
Have at it. Go buy it and you go wait 14 hours for it to charge on your garage charger. That's fine. My beef with that whole segment is that it's cutting into my segment. If Don wanted to do e-muscle and we could still get Hellcat, fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't think that you're going to have like astonishing sales numbers by any means, but we're going to be over here, slinging Hellcats to people who want them, because let's not get started on the cult like friendship of Hellcat people. Like they are so passionate about their cars, so passionate. And I say cult in an endearing way, but like, you know, they travel together.
Yeah.
They meet up before the car show. They come in together. Like they're just a very dedicated group. And I don't think that they're all going to be like, EV, you know what I mean? I just think that would be a hard segment to win over. So if they wanted to do e-muscle and it was its thing over here, I wouldn't care. But the fact that it's going to eat into a hobby that I love, I care a lot. So it gets 0 of my support.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. This is also how cheesy I am. If I'm out mowing my lawn and I hear a nice cam, I will shut that little electric bastard off and I will listen like, okay, I know a badass car is going to drive by. You know, even if it's a shitbox, I'm like, sweet, nice old truck with a cam. Cool. You know what I mean? I've never done that for a Tesla. Never have. Never.
It's like, it's musical. You ever hear the Tyler Childers song? It's called Universal Sound.
I don't think so.
It's a great song, but I think about it a lot in this, in regards to this. And the song is about him just needing the universal sound, which in this case is music. But in my case, it's rumbly exhaust. And like, you know, how it's the soundtrack to my whole life. Like, I don't have a radio in the 72. I'm driving it down the turnpike for 2 hours. That's what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
Like, even in my new Challenger, like, I rarely have the radio on in that thing because I just want to step on it and listen to the exhaust and turn heads like how you would when you're mowing your grass. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I grew up feeling that way. So
yeah,
but
I don't know. Maybe we'll, and that's another thing too. Like the prices of Hellcats now, you know, that's going to be, because I do want one. That's one reason why I decided against a Scat Pack and why I was like, I'll just hold off. Because I was like, I know if I get in that Scat Pack, I'm going to feel pretty cool until a Hellcat rolls up and I go, that's what I really wanted. Yeah. I probably should have just waited.
But get before they go, before they're done.
I know. That's, man. Now, if somebody, I don't want to say that. I was going to say if somebody came to me with a really nice Hellcat and said, I really like your truck, I still couldn't do that because I can buy a Hellcat almost any time. It's just probably going to cost me a little bit more, you know? So I take that back. I will not trade my truck for a Hellcat.
You know a secret? You can have more than one.
That's true. You're evil. You're evil. I love that philosophy. I really do. That's why I'm trying to move out of Washington and get a place out in Texas or something where I have some more room, because in this little cookie cutter housing development, you know, I'm the trash in the neighborhood with the POS 73 Roadrunner outside that people are just looking at like, you know? I wait till they see me when I cut down this big ugly tree in front of my house, and they have to look at it. There's no choice, because right now they can drive by and not really look to the right. But if this tree that my HOA, all the members have moved out, so there's like it's like a city running wild, and they told me that I needed their permission to cut down this ugly ass tree in my front yard. And I was like, I need your permission to cut down this ugly tree. And they're like, yeah, it needs to go through the committee and people need to vote on it because it's a beautification. I was like, that ugly tree is half dead. I was like, I purposefully don't water it. Right. So now they're all gone. And I'm like, and the lady, I was at a homeowners association meeting once, and they're like, is there anything else? And I knew that I was the guy in the neighborhood that, you know, had the shit box out front and stuff. So I was like, I do have a question. I was like, I put them all on the spot. I was like, does anybody have a problem? And this is when I had my blue truck. I was like, does anybody have a problem with my blue truck outside? And they all kind of looked at each other, and the neighborhood Karen, she actually said this, because I have a tarp that on one side it's blue and the other side it's brown. And I was courteous. I let the brown side shine. I was like, even a blue tarp in this neighborhood is a little sketchy for me. So I was like, I'll give you guys the brown side. So she goes, I'm just glad that you have the brown side of the tarp showing and not the blue side. And I'll be damned if I didn't go home and flip that son of a bitch around. I said, all right, that's the game we're going to play, huh? All right. Because I had a bunch of, when I first started the podcast, I had bought all my sound equipment and stuff through Amazon. and some lowlife, some tweakers stole it off my front porch, right? So all my equipment gone. And she has now I have one of those ring cams.
Yeah.
And to get into our neighborhood, you have to pass her house. She's that lady, and she's got this ring cam. And of course, so I have to go over and knock on her door and be like, did you get any footage? And she looked at me dead in the eye and said, yeah, but you can't see their face, so it's kind of useless to you. And I was like, but it's like, what am I going to do? You know, chase somebody down, post their picture up. So I was like, all right, fair enough. But you didn't have to be such a Karen. But I did.
Pass one.
Yeah, I did a happy dance when I saw their moving van. I was like, yeah. Dun, 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 dun. I was so excited. I didn't even say bye to him. But now that the homeowners association is disbanded, I'm trying really hard because I also have the van. I got the boogie van, and I'm like, man, they're gonna love me when I get the boogie van outside. Mr. Norm's in the garage. I got the boogie van and this POS 73 Roadrunner outside. They're gonna hate me.
How is that thing coming along?
It's not coming along. So I had to finally just buckle down and get a storage unit. That's how these new homes are not built for car people. I have a 3-car garage, and part of the middle bay is taken up by the damn water heater and the furnace. And I'm like, who built this house? You couldn't offset it by like 3 feet. So I can't park the Roadrunner. If I parked the Roadrunner in the garage, there would be literally maybe a foot of room to divide between the front and the back. So there's no room to work on it. The van, because it's a short wheelbase, so it's a shorty van. I have about 3 feet. So I can't even open the rear door all the way because it's got a big single hearse style rear door. So these houses aren't built for that. And I had no room. I had a bunch of junk that I probably should have sold. So I've started selling some stuff off, but I finally just went and got a storage unit so I can reorganize. And then I work better when I'm organized.
Yeah.
And lately when I've been walking out into the garage, looking at all my stuff, because I have boxes of parts to install, and it's getting to the point where I was like, I don't even want to be in here. It's so unorganized. It just gives me anxiety. So I shut the door. Now, like after this, I'm going down to the garage because everything that I didn't want to keep here because I have no use for it right now is now in the storage unit. So tonight, after we get off the horn here, I'm going downstairs into the garage to organize it. And I've got shelves. I'm like, all right, this is the van stuff I need to put on. This is the Roadrunner stuff. Speaking of which, Brian, you're in the chat. We need to talk, dude. I need to send you that money because I want that carb and intake. I'm just happy to get reorganized again because I'm almost to the point where I was with my last projects where it's a stalemate. And this time it's my fault. I have enough money rolling in where I can do stuff, and I have a bunch of parts laying around, and I just don't have the space. I mean, it sounds simple and stupid, and it is. That's why I just forked out the cash, got myself a storage unit. But then I get the storage unit, I fill it up, and I'm looking at all the stuff, and I'm like, I don't need this shit. Like, I need to start selling this. And I keep arguing with my wife about I'm not a hoarder. You know what I mean? And then I'm looking at this storage unit, I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, why was I holding on to that? And then the little devil on my shoulder is like, you could probably get a few bucks for that on Craigslist. And I'm like, really? Am I that desperate to make a couple $100 on these parts that will probably take me months to sell, and I'm paying for the storage unit? So I'm starting to have a different way of thinking. And like, I just have so much stuff like, oh, I'll use that on a car someday. It's like, hey, hoarder, let's not have that mentality. You know what I mean? So
you get rid of it is when you're going to need it.
Thank you. There you go, being evil again. and negative influence on me, Kyla.
I completely come from a family with garages full of stuff that we don't use.
Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Boogie vans. What are your opinion on boogie vans? I'm curious.
There was actually quite a showing of them at Carlisle this year.
My buddy Sean was there with his yellow submarine. Yeah. Did you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. What'd you think about that?
I think, I mean, they're super cool. They're super customizable in that you could do whatever you want with them. Like, nice. Right? You can put whatever you want inside. And so vans in general, we're seeing a lot of like people upfitting ProMasters into campers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And driving them around. I'm like, so many people have done this like van life in new stuff.
Yeah.
Why isn't there a larger population doing van life and old stuff.
Give this woman an award, please. Thank you. See, you get it. Some people don't.
You know how earlier you were saying, like, a truck isn't cool. You're sort of expected to have a muscle car.
Yeah.
Right. So,
sure.
Maybe that was accurate. It was most especially accurate when I started getting into the hobbies, and even having a 72 Charger instead of a 69 Charger was like, oh, that's a little bit lame. But we've seen this progression, I think, in the hobby that, one, maybe because of inflation and the cost of things going up astonishingly year over year. But there's become like a bigger group of people who are getting, the 73s, 74s back on the road, the 4-doors back on the road, the wagons back on the road, the vans back on the road. I remember when nobody wanted A-bodies, and now you go to Carlisle and there's lines and lines and lines and lines of beautiful A-bodies. Like, I feel like the hobby has shifted in a way that everything has its place now. And there's this like level of acceptance for all things, not just late 60s, early 70s, B&E bodies. So if you could get a Dodge van, tricked out and back on the road, do it. If you could take it to Carlisle and sleep in the back because it's a good time, drink a lot of water, you're going to need to hydrate, but do it. Like,
guys that drive boogie vans are probably not thinking about drinking water. I'll just say that. That's funny.
But I think it's cool that the hobby is sort of expanding in all ways, not just, we talked the one time I was on here about how, there has to be this acceptance between the classic crew and the modern crew. And I think that extends as well. Like, there has to be an acceptance between classic muscle and classic trucks and station wagons and 4-doors and stuff that, could still look pretty cool when they're given the appropriate kind of love.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your viewpoint, because nowadays, especially when it comes to vans, man, there's such a negative connotation. All these serial killers that abducted people in these vans, like, and all the guys with cool boogie vans are like, we just wanted to party in and we didn't want to kill anybody, and now, like, I live
whatever.
100 feet in that direction is an elementary school. And I'm so worried that I'm going to get this boogie van built and I'm just going to be driving home and parents are going to like shelter their kids from this van because they have such a negative connotation. I hate it. I hate it because I grew up around vans. That's one thing I've never had as a negative connotation towards vans. I mean, custom vans, like I don't see anything wrong with them, but people to this day still, and I've even talked to some people that are car enthusiasts that are like, creepy old van. Why? And I'm like, see, you don't get it. You don't understand that there's a whole subculture of vanning that you just don't understand.
Yeah. It's such a trend right now. I mean, now's the time I think that people should be taking advantage of it. You can make a living being an influencer.
It's crazy, right?
And driving across country, looking at the same damn canyons and the same damn mountains as anybody else driving across country. But because you're living in a little van and putting it on YouTube, people are like, take my money for ads and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, or I don't know. I feel like anything is cooler when it's done in a classic.
100%. Like, I don't know if you know the story of what I want to do with that van, but I want to call it the Van Cave, and it's going to be a mobile podcast studio so I can take it to shows and be able to conduct interviews from, close to or inside. It'd be a little bit weird being inside the van doing an interview, but it would allow me, almost like what you're saying, like I would be essentially taking that thing on the road, not only being able to sleep in it and have all my equipment and stuff and being able to cover events like that. I don't think anybody's doing that, but I'd also be able to tow my truck or whatever I have. So I'm like, this thing could really, talking about
it's a multi-use vehicle, really. And, not for nothing, we spoke a little bit about this in the beginning. Like, yes, Carlisle is a big show. Mopar Nats in Columbus, big show. Moparty, big show. But like, not everybody goes to these big shows. Like, how cool would it be to cruise up to a little, like, you know, mom and pop show that's happening on a Sunday in the church lot, or the, you know, next to the carnival or whatever, in these little towns that you'd be driving through in your adventures to these larger shows. And think about the stories that you would hear then. Like, it would just open a whole new world, I think.
I'm excited. This is my buddy Sean Thomas. He's the guy who owns the Moon Eyes yellow street van that you saw at Carlisle.
Okay.
He's at the Van Nationals right now. Now, for Vanners, I know a lot of people in this chat are probably like, Van Nationals. That's like the Carlisle for Vanners. And his van there, like, he builds, you've probably seen Vanther, the FM3 pink van with the Pentastar portholes and the Go Wing, one of my favorite vans of all time. And then he had the crazy van, the plum crazy purple big block van, and then now he's got this the yellow submarine. The guy builds vans. Man, any one of the vans he has or had, if he came to me in the chat and said, I'll trade you this van for the Mr. Norm truck, especially van, I would 100% drive an FM3 pink van. I got no problems. I'm comfortable with myself. Drive the hell out of that thing. But he builds badass vans, and he's at the Van Nationals right now. So I guess you can say that Talking Mopars is also at the Van Nationals. So thank you, Sean, for that.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Very cool. We're approaching the 2-hour mark. If anybody has any questions for Michaela, get them in now. I'm going to run through this chat really quick and see what we got. I'm so relieved that you don't think that vans are creepy. That makes me feel good. Because if I roll up to the All Mopar show in the van and you're like, who's this creep? And I'm like, Michaela, it's me. And you're like, don't let him in.
No, bring it. I mean, I think that's just what makes the hobby cool, is everybody has, and, you know, I mean, my panel truck really isn't that much different than a van.
That's true. And that's a cool truck too.
Yeah, I love that truck. I need to get that Carlisle again. There were a couple this year, and I was kind of bummed I didn't have mine.
Yeah, I want so bad to take the Mr. Norm truck to Carlisle. I don't know. But Carlisle is one of those events where I feel maybe I won't sell it until I get it to Carlisle. I just want it to, I want to take that thing around to some places, because I know that a lot of people haven't seen it in person. It's just such a cool little truck. It really is.
And not for nothing, but Carlisle is sort of right smack dab in the middle of a lot of rich history and cool places to see. So, like, you know, you could make a vacay out of it. Like, Hershey Park is not far away, and we're not that far from Philadelphia at that point, and Niagara Falls, and like, there's cool stuff that if you were going to come out with the family, you know, and sneak in your 3-day car show, you could still see a lot of cool stuff on the East Coast out here.
Man, just the trip alone from Washington, since I'm in the corner of the states, there's so much for me to see on the way. It's like, I don't even know where to begin. Wellborn Muscle Car Museum is also on my bucket list. Going back to the whole events thing, have you ever heard of the Hemi Hideout? I think it's in Texas.
I've heard of it in passing, but I've never been.
It's like a venue for like weddings and stuff, but it's like, it's all decked out and cool, like old neons and cars and stuff. And I was like, part of me has this dream that someday I could do like a Talking Mopars Invitational, where I have all my friends that have ever been on the show or associated with the show all gather in one place for just one awesome, just hoorah party of Mopars. But then I think about how hard it is to hold an event, and I'm like, that would be so much work, but it would be so cool.
It would. And if you're only doing it once,
yeah,
you know,
it would be just like a celebration. Just, I don't know. If I would have to have, because I would want to make it easy for people, you know, I wouldn't want to, like, no registration fees, just, hey, here's your invitation, show up. And I think it would be a lot of fun. Maybe someday the show will get to the point where I could make something like that happen. Brian from Dust Devil Garage says, who's going to Mo Party? I am going to Mo Party. I guess I should announce here right now. I am not going to the No Name Nationals now. It's a long story. My schedule at work. So I was going to split vacation days. So I have one last week of vacation. So I was going to take 3 days for No Name Nationals, and I was going to take 2 days for Mo Party. I already knew I was going to Mo Party, so I already bought plane tickets. But the idea for No Name Nationals was always that I was going to tow my car, and I needed the extra days. Well, that plan fell through because fuel is so crazy. I'm not going to be able to $4,000 on fuel. That's insane. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. I can't. I don't have that money just to throw away. So then the other idea was I'll just fly out to No Name Nationals. Well, I got denied the vacation time. So I was like, I can't split the vacation. And I already bought plane tickets to Mo Party. They're non-refundable. So if I wanted to get rid of them, that's, $600-700 gone. As much as I love the guys going to No Name, I wish them all luck. Have a great time. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there.
There's always there, right?
There is, yeah.
It's an annual thing.
This is the inaugural No Name National. So I hope it is a success so that it goes on, because it's an interesting event because it's for content creators. It's for YouTubers and people with YouTube channel. And I hope it grows to more than that, because I had to qualify for it because I'm not a YouTuber. So I had to create a YouTube channel, get 500 subscribers. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm doing all this. I'm not even a YouTuber and I'm going to be at this event. So I almost felt like an imposter anyway, but, it was going to be, it was going to be a lot of fun. And I am definitely sad about it, but like you said, there is always next year. I think we asked Michaela about this. She doesn't know anything yet, but I'm sure, hey, you're going to let us know when you know something.
Yep. I'll be running my mouth about it as soon as
Yes. Let's see here. But yeah, anyways, guys, I am going to Mo Party. You should make it out there sometime, Michaela. It's a fun show.
My middle sister is actually relocating to Tennessee. So, I think in the future, it's sort of along the way to see her. Yeah. So it'll become a little bit more accessible.
It is definitely. It's when I went last year, I just flew into Nashville, rented a Dodge Ram, and just drove up to Bowling Green. It's a super cool. I love shows that incorporate not just a car show, but you got drag racing, you've got autocross. It brings a whole new dynamic because while you're looking at all these badass cars, you're hearing badass cars. Yeah. So it's like your engine's just like your internal engine's just revving the whole time and you're just pumped. Like for me, that it's like a drug. Like I can't explain it other than that. It's so much fun. Yeah, no, you would love it. Brianna and Keaton White. Congratulations, guys, if you're both in here. They just got married. Congratulations.
Yes. In the background of their wedding photos was her 440 Plymouth, and they are spectacular photos.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. I need to throw that out there that like my hat's off to any girl who uses her Mopar in her wedding photos. So
right? Like, hey, ladies, if you want to attract a guy, all it takes is for a Mopar guy. I'm sitting there like, man, I should have stepped my game up. How did I not have, you know what I mean? And I'm like, good job, Keaton. Like, high five, buddy. He got himself a good one. No, I got the pleasure to meet her and him at Mo Party, and I got to see her car. And I didn't even know she was there. I just recognized the car, and I was like, "That's Brianna's car. I know it."
We've been following each other on social media for, oh my gosh, years now. So I hope someday I get to meet her and see her cool rides.
Yeah, no, super cool people. Same with the Crosbys. The Crosbys are cool. Luke and Olivia, they're sweethearts too. I got to meet them in Vegas at Muscle Cars of the Show. That's another great thing about this podcast. Everywhere I go, I get to meet people. Like I was at SEMA and some guy just came up to me and he's like, "Are you Chris from Talking Mopars?" And of course, like that's the first time anybody's like, when I'm outside, I'm by myself. So it was like, it was like, I don't know, it reassured everything that I've been doing. I'm like, you know who I am? He actually, bless his heart. He's like, "Can I get a photo with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know why, but sure. Yeah." I was like, it was so awesome. I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Crazy. Yeah. I call it celebrity. In my little world, Like my uncle was at a bowling tournament, and this is completely random. He was wearing a shirt that I custom made for him. And it was back when I was still doing the Mopar Hunter. I made him a Power Wagon shirt that says Power Wagon. It's got the grill, kind of like the shirt you were wearing. It's got that logo on it, and it says the Mopar Hunter. And he goes up and he goes, "Oh, I know the Mopar Hunter." And my uncle goes, "Yeah, that's my nephew." And my uncle's white, so he's like, "It's your nephew?" It's super funny. But yeah, just random things like that. When I hear people talking about my show and I'm not there, and then other people relate to me, like, "Oh, dude, I was at this event and somebody was talking about your show." It blows my mind. It just makes me so happy. It makes my heart sing. I'm like, the show's getting out there, and that's awesome. I love it.
There were so many people that came up to me at Carlisle and were like, "Oh my God, we loved your Talking Mopars. Get on again." I'm like, wow, this many people actually listen to me talk.
Hey, that's the power of Talking Mopars is funny. Like, I know that I'm the host of the show, but I started it because the community of Mopar enthusiasts didn't have a podcast, and now we do, and we can talk Mopars and say whatever the hell we want. And it's been so fun getting all the emails and stuff. And I love when I have a guest and people hit me up like, have Miss Mopar back on, or have Johnny Mopar back on. Like, whenever somebody, reaches out to me to have somebody back on the show, I'm like, wow, it shows that they care. And that to me makes me feel good, whether it's, 2 people listening or thousands, because thousands of people listen to the show. I don't know where they're at, but they're all over the world, and it still blows my mind. But it's so much fun. And it really makes me happy to hear that people were like, "Oh, I loved you on the show." That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Jovita, what's up?
Oh, hi, girl. We're doing good.
I'm glad to hear that you're still going, Brianna. That's awesome. Can't wait to see you guys. Dust Devil, yes, sir. Derek, I'll hold you to that, dude. I will hold you to that. Do they have a beer garden at Carlisle or what?
Derek is such a cool dude that I've had the pleasure of knowing for so long now. Like, I've got to hold his babies because when I met him, like, we were just kids. So if you have the opportunity to have a beer with Derek, you'll be vibing.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Sean, I have a simple solution. Tow the satellite with the yellow submarine.
Problem solved.
Right. Jovita, you also had badass wedding pictures. Love them all.
Yes, they were stunning.
So Jed from Scott's Speed Shop just put together this Pro Stock Hemi, and it is the stuff of, if you're a fan of Hemis, the thing is just nasty. And he's not even putting it in a car. He's using it for display purposes to teach people about the history of Pro Stock Hemis. So he's going to have it on display. And apparently it is running. Jed, I will do you the honor, sir. If you want to come on and just show us and share a video of that thing running, I'll let you on. Let me know. Brianna, nice. Keaton, what's up, buddy? Yeah, to be honest, I would have been disappointed if you guys hadn't done some Mopar shots.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in myself now when I look at my wedding pictures. Actually, I take it back. We don't even have any. We did a shotgun wedding. I take it back. I didn't even have a photographer. Maybe we'll have to do it again.
A vow renewal.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm so bad about this chat. I feel bad. I'm sorry. Anybody that's been in the chat, I have seen everything you've been writing. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Both Mikhaila and I do.
I do too. I'm going to follow along, and then I get talking, and then I forget.
I'm so good about the first couple seconds, but I never want to interrupt and be like, "Oh, hey, so-and-so said hi." So anytime you say hi, just know that I'm seeing you and I'm silently acknowledging you. Just know that. For Mo Party, myself and some of the other members of the Motley crew of Mopars, we're going to get an Airbnb. So it's probably going to be a party at our Airbnb. I'm trying to figure out if there's any cruising that goes on in Bowling Green that I don't know about. Because I would love to go after the show and go to a cruise. That'd be awesome. Scott's Pro Stock Hemi is a 71 era 451-inch Hemi with a Dick Landy dual distributor setup, magnesium tunnel ram, and twin Dominators. I will be buried with it. Jed, I've told you this before. I love it when you talk dirty, dude. Big blocks in the house. We have to go cruise Bowling Green. Yes, sir. No questions for Michaela? What? Tim. Yeah, I had to turn mine. Well, mine did like Mopars, but I now she's Mrs. Talking Mopars, Mrs. Mopar Hunter. So let me put they are definitely out there. This show proves it. And let me guys tell you guys something funny. So my wife and I got into this hobby of kayaking, right? I already have a boogie van. Last night I come home and I just say, I really want to build a van. And she goes, huh? And I was like, I want to build another van. Let me clarify. I want to build a kayaking van. And I was like, but it would have to be like an A100, like an old surf van. And this woman, bless her heart, just reaches up and gives me a high five, which to me is like a acknowledgement of, oh, you can get another van, but it has to be an A100. So love you, babe, if you're watching this. Brianna says, I can never find any cruising in Bowling Green after. So maybe yes, that's it. I know that the rest of the Motley crew and I talked about this. We talked about making flyers for like a meetup spot and cruising in Bowling Green and just passing them out at the show. And hopefully the people that are there will be like, yeah, we'll go check it out. And we can all just hang out after the show somewhere cool. There's that old. So we went to dinner on the last night of the show and it's this little pizza joint. And we get out of Blake's truck. And we've got the CUDA, his AAR CUDA in tow. And we look across the street and there's this giant brick wall. Mopar Bell posted a picture of it. And it's this brick wall and it's an old Chrysler Plymouth building. And it's got a giant painting of Chrysler Plymouth. It was so cool. We about lost our minds. It was like, what? So, of course, we had to do a photo op and stuff. It was amazing. And then we're walking towards the restaurant. And my crazy ass sees a little tattoo shop and the guy's walking out. And I basically told the other guys, I was like, hey, should I get a neck should I get the other side of my neck tattooed with a giant pentastar right now? And they're like, do it. And I was like, hey, man, would you tattoo me right now? And he's like, if you got money, it's going to cost, because he's shutting down shop. And I got to be honest, Matt, you were there. We did almost get tattoos. I regret not getting that tattoo. Why? I thought my wife would flip out if I came home with another neck tattoo. I think she'd be like, what? Are you out of your mind? And I'd be like, yes. But she flat out looked at me and said, oh, you should have did it. Like, almost like, loser, you should have did it. And I was like, so that will be a regret from first Mo party. Brian says, so next year, can I bring a ratty street freak duster to Michaela's show? I don't think she would turn you down, dude.
No, my sister brought her 69 Dart project, and like, it's a good conversation piece. Yeah. You know, you certainly learned a lot from other people that were there that have darts. That you know, it's good networking, I think, to bring your project cars out.
Absolutely, yeah.
They create more conversation than the fully, perfectly restored cars, because people want to know, like, what are you doing with that? What are your plans? Yeah. Do you need this? Are you looking for this? And I
like the guys that are like, plans. This is it.
Yeah.
Like, all right, dude. High five. Right. Your sister with the Dart is, does she also have the Jeep, or is that a different sister? Yeah. You got, okay.
She's the same one.
Okay. So the other sister is not a Mopar girl.
No, she comes in. She does a great job running registration at all Mopar show, but that's her one car show event of the year. Like, we're like, Ashley, we rented a big RV for Carlisle this year. We got plenty of space. You want to come? And she'll be like, I'd rather be dead.
Oh my God. Man, but your other sister, Haley is her name. She's the photographer, right?
Uh-huh.
Is she's the one that takes all your shots?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does a great job. Yeah, that's cool. How is she getting progress on the Dart, or what? What's the story on the Dart?
It's slow, but she's getting there. She needs manifolds, but they're horrendously overpriced anywhere she can find them. I mean, they're horrendously overpriced for her budget. They are hard to find, so you understand why they're priced high. But she's, fresh out of college and trying to make and it's like she can't spend $800 on exhaust right now. Like, so she's getting there slowly but surely. She brings it to Cars and Coffee here and again, and she's like kind of learning her way around.
Yeah.
That sometimes doesn't run. So,
dude, what a treat! 2 sisters to roll up with 2 awesome Mopars. It's like, wow. It's funny that your one sister Ashley isn't into Mopars, and 2 of you are. Usually it's like the one psycho. So it would be Michaela's the one psycho that is, and the other 2 sisters like, are you doing that car stuff with dad again? Yeah. So Ashley can be the outcast.
The automotive genetic is so strong in our family that the black sheep is the one that didn't get it.
That's awesome. Was Haley hard to convince, or was she already in it like you were as a kid?
I think she was sort of in it. She I don't know, her childhood was kind of cut in half. My mom died when she was 13, so after that she didn't really have a choice but to hang out with me and my dad.
Yeah. Bummer.
So so she was always at car shows with us, but I think she would have been there even if she had a choice. So I'm certainly thrilled to have her in the hobby. One year at Carlisle, the year I won with the Power Wagon, she won with her XJ. And for us to we have this cool picture, and it's a candid shot of us both holding our little trophies and we're high-fiving. And it's like, it's those kind of moments that you're like, they don't write this shit in movies. Like, this is just a cool moment to share. And I guess that's kind of the point of why I do what I do, to get more young women involved in the hobby, and make their presence kind of known. So
now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
First, what kind of manifolds does your sister?
So she needs 69 340 manifolds, and the one is like kind of goofy looking, and I don't even remember. I don't pay enough close attention.
Sure.
But so I think they're year specific for the 69 340s. And we've only ever found one for sale at Carlisle, and it's cracked and bondoed or welded.
Yeah, JB welded.
Somehow.
Oh.
It doesn't look ultra sturdy to me, but they want like $600 for it, which I think is just a risky purchase if you don't know if it was repaired correctly. So if anybody has leads on correct, if they look to be in good shape, I'm sure the money would be worth it. But
you can trust the people in this chat.
Manifolds, that would be cool.
69 340 manifolds for an A body. Let's get the hunt out there. Let's help Haley out. Does she do a lot of photography with cars, or is that like your sister's special bond thing?
When she was younger, it was sort of a career she wanted to pursue, and then she found her way into law enforcement. So now she just is at.
Oh, she's the cop?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Uh-huh.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
But she likes cars, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
That's like a guy's dream, getting pulled over and the cop, and you're like, oh no. And she's like, I love your car. I actually have a 69 Dart at home. It's like, lucky for you, I have a diamond ring right in my glove box waiting for this moment.
Always an icebreaker.
My God. No, that's cool. I was going to say if she had a photography page or something, you could promote it for her. But if she doesn't do...
She used to. I don't think she really runs it anymore. She used to be Brass Knuckles Photography.
Oh, okay.
She have like entertainment shots in the music industry, and then of course my stuff. But now it's just like me saying, "Haley, get your camera. We need some
Put the cuffs away, dust off the camera, and get out here." That's funny. Oh, Scott saw the cracked set of headers as well.
Oh, good.
Or manifolds. I really know that.
The only one that was like, please don't buy H.
Oh, yeah. Brian, yes. Not only does the law enforcement, the cop sister, like cars and guns, but Michaela is also a fan of the Second Amendment.
Yes.
On that note, guys, Michaela's been gracious enough to give us her time on a Friday night of all things. It's what, midnight where you're at?
It is, yeah.
My God, I am so sorry. I apologize.
It's okay.
That's another thing about being on the West Coast. All my people are like, I got Johnny Mopar, Mike Coffee, and a couple other guys in California, and everybody else, Arizona, and they're like sprinkled, but it's like East Coast and Midwest. That's where they're all at. I'm like, oh man, and the South. Yeah, I need to get out of here so that I don't have to keep Michaela up so late. It's already Saturday. But I hope you don't work tomorrow.
It's actually my birthday tomorrow. So
is it really? Happy birthday.
Thank you.
How old are you? 21?
I wish. I'm 33.
Really?
Yeah.
Very well. Happy birthday to you. Everybody sing happy birthday to Michaela. Well, hey.
I'm going to do some yoga in the morning, and I'm going to drive around in my Dodge all afternoon.
Hell yes. On that note, happy birthday, Michaela. Thank you very much for joining us again on Talking Mopars. You're welcome back anytime. Clearly, everybody loves to have you on the show. You're fun to talk to. And, maybe next time we can talk some more about guns and stuff.
For a little chit chat.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Albrecht, better known as the Mopar Hunter. This is Michaela Brass, better known as Miss Mopar. You can find her on Instagram at Miss Mopar 7172 and on Facebook at Miss Mopar. Is there anything else you'd like to plug before we leave?
Nope. You can follow my All Mopar Show pages. That's just All Mopar Show on Instagram. And I think it's at All Mopar Show on Facebook too. But if you type it in, you'll find the little picture of my 64. And that is us.
Awesome. Hey, we're still waiting for YouTube content. I've had a couple people go, hey, what's up with Michaela's YouTube page? I was like, you want me to hound her about her YouTube page?
I have these grand plans. Like when we were at Carlisle, I was like, I'm going to get some really cool content. And then, like I said, I made it 30 feet away from my car. And, you get stuck chit-chatting with people and catching up with people. And you're like, well, there's always next.
No, yeah. I can't count how many times I've been live at a show or an event. And like I'm walking by and I see someone I know and I'm like in the middle of doing like recording a live and I'm just like, oh, Knuckles, dude, what's up? And I like feel bad. And sometimes I just I talked to one of my buddies while I was live for like 20 minutes and I could just see all the people like, what is this guy doing? So I'm like talking to him and I'm just holding the camera in different spots every 10 seconds. And I'm like, this must suck for you guys. I am so sorry. But you got friends, you got people out there, But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your Saturday. Once again, happy birthday, Michaela. There you have it, my friends. Another episode of Talking Mopars is in the books. For everything you need to know about this podcast or to listen and subscribe to the show, please visit TalkingMopars.com. And don't forget that you can send me your Mopar stories, questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, and everything else on your Mopar addicted mind to Chris at TalkingMopars.com or leave me a voice message on my voicemail box at 209-28-MOPAR to hear yourself on the show. If you want to help support the show, you can pick up some cool merchandise in the Talking Mopars merch shop. There you can order products like t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, mugs, and more. And you can find that at TalkingMopars.com in the merch shop. Another way to help support the show is by becoming a supporter on the Talking Mopars Facebook page. By becoming a supporter on Facebook, you will get access to exclusive bonus content, and you will be entered into our monthly supporter giveaway, where you will get a chance to win something fun related to Mopars. Special thanks to my friends over at DIY Hemi for their unwavering support of this podcast. If you are considering swapping a modern Hemi into your classic Mopar, go give my buddies at DIYHemi.com a shout and tell them I sent you. They'll be more than happy to help you out in their mission to Hemi swap the world. That's it, my friends. Until we talk again, I am your host, Chris Albrecht, and that was Talking Mopars.
Thank you for listening to Talking Mopars, your direct connection to all things Mopar. Until next time, remember, no Mopar left behind.